Yes, yes, yes. And then once we sivale phaya spending. There is no.
Good morning. Good morning, colleagues. I just want to share the Wi Fi because we don't have a screen. Good morning, colleagues. I just wanted to share the Wi Fi. You'll find it on guest 450, and the code is 2468. Guest net. Oh, perfect. Yeah, then my life is easier. Then I was trying to interpret. So
to the Minister of Transport, Deputy Minister of Public Service and Administration, the MEC for Transport in Gauteng. I was advised that the mayor is present, but I can't see him. But I imagine the executive mayor of the city of Johannesburg will join us. Stakeholders and leaders in the transport fraternity, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, our program has been circulated, so I imagine everybody has a copy of the program. The only part that wasn't inserted in the program, and in the last session with the Deputy President, I was wrapped around the knuckles for starting an event without the singing of the national anthem. So I imagine colleagues have made arrangements and that we can rise for the rendition of the national anthem. Capacity problems. If I tried, I would mislead everybody, guaranteed. If we may rise for the national anthem. Thank you very much. As indicated earlier, the program has been circulated, but I'll just take us briefly through the program for today. Excuse me. We will start with the opening and overview of the Transformation Fund, and then we'll have an input on progress report on the integrated transport, broad-based Black economic empowerment sector charter council, which would be presented by Ms. Khomotso Selokane. And she would almost immediately segue into moderating the panel discussion on the topic, which topic is unlocking transformation in the value chain of the transport sector to drive inclusive growth, and we have a number of panelists there. Then we'll go through a Q&A session. And Khomotso will indicate how that would work. I'm told there's a QR code, etc., etc. I'm sure she's better placed to be able to share how that process would work. Minister Chris would do the keynote address and or response, reflecting on the issues that have been raised and the direction that we're taking, and then we'll get to closure. It is an honor for me to welcome you to this critical discussion on the Transformation Fund that is currently under consultation as it relates to the transport sector. Our discussions today must develop a framework on how we as government, industry, and civil society can drive rapid, inclusive, and sustainable growth over the next 5 years and beyond. Today's engagement centers on 3 overarching themes that will guide our collective effort to transform the South African economy. The first is building of transformation policies to overcome historical exclusion. The second is empowering MSMEs as engines of inclusive growth. And the third is modernizing transport and logistics through strategic partnerships. Each of these themes is interlinked and mutually reinforcing. By focusing our energy on resources here, we'll not only accelerate growth in key sectors, but ensure that every South African, regardless of background or location, shares in the benefits of our nation's progress. Ladies and gentlemen, since 1994, our Constitution and a suite of landmark laws, including the Basic Conditions of Employment Act, the Employment Equity Act, Broad-Based Black Economic Empowerment Framework and legislation, and the sector charters have laid the groundwork for dismantling apartheid-era barriers. These interventions open doors for black ownership, management control, and equitable opportunity. Yet nearly 3 decades later, too many remain on the margins. Access to land, capital, and markets is still uneven. Institutional discrimination persists in procurement and finance. To honor the promise of our democracy, we must both strengthen enforcement of existing codes and embed transformation more deeply into everyday practice, especially as we revise sector-specific codes, including the Integrated Transport Sector Code. Looking back at our policy achievements helps us to learn where progress has stalled and where we must double down. It reminds us that inclusion is not a one-off event, but a continuous journey, one that demands vigilance, innovation, and partnership. Ladies and gentlemen, micro, small, and medium enterprises are the lifeblood of our economy. They make up over 90% of all businesses and employ nearly 2/3 of our workforce. Yet black-owned MSMEs still face deep barriers, high collateral requirements, limited credit history, and a lack of mentorship, technical assistance, and market access. The new Transformation Fund will tackle these challenges head-on. Its financial arm will offer tailored credit lines at favorable rates, co-financed by government and private sector partners, specifically earmarked for majority black-owned and controlled businesses. On the non-financial side, the fund will provide mentorship and training, preparing emerging entrepreneurs with seasoned industry professionals. It will provide technical assistance, helping businesses meet quality standards and regulatory requirements. It will facilitate market access through through connecting MSMEs with procurement opportunities in manufacturing, agriculture, tourism, and automotive value chains. And it will drive export readiness programs, equipping enterprises to expand into regional and global markets. By strengthening MSMEs, we unleash innovation, create jobs where they are needed most, and ensure that the dividends of growth reach townships and rural areas. Dear colleagues, an efficient transport and logistics system is the circulatory system of our economy. There's somebody that's sharing in. Oh, there's somebody who has not. I thought there was an interpreter. If I may repeat, ladies and gentlemen, an efficient transport and logistics system is the circulatory system of our economy. It moves raw materials to factories, finished goods to stores, and services to consumers at home and abroad. To unlock higher productivity, we must invest in digital platforms, green technologies, multimodal corridors, and skills development across the value chain. Equally important is aligning BBBE and enterprise and supplier development requirements in transport and logistics. By embedding clear targets for black ownership, management control, and supplier diversity in our sector codes, we ensure that modernization benefits all stakeholders. The Transformation Fund will be co-managed with private sector partners, creating accountability and shared commitment. Together, we will finance infrastructure upgrades such as intermodal hubs and smart fleet systems, while simultaneously building the capacity of black-owned logistics MSMEs to participate fully in these projects. Colleagues, stakeholders, and partners, the Draft Transformation Fund concept paper is open for written comments until the 28th of May 2025. I urge each of you, as custodians of your sector codes, to propose concrete targets and accountability mechanisms that align with the fund's objectives and share bold ideas for how we can leverage private sector expertise and capital to achieve rapid and inclusive impact. Thank you very much. If I may at this point extend an invitation to Ms. Komotso Selokane, who is the chairperson of the Integrated Transport Sector BBBE Charter Council. She will both speak and facilitate.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, our Minister, Minister Barbara Creasy, Minister Parkstyle, Deputy Minister of Public Administration, Mr. Minister Finki Gegana, our Deputy Minister of DTIC, the DGs. No. CEOs of our SOCs, CEOs, captains of industry, Charter Council members, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. We have walked this journey for over 2 years We were appointed by the previous Minister of Transport in 2023 to focus on fixing what was a lacuna within our space. The last codes were gazetted in 2009, and we started the process in 2014, where we wanted to then align ourselves to the DTIC codes of good practice. Unfortunately, that did not realize itself, but when we were then appointed, the first thing we did was we put the tires to the tar, and we worked tirelessly as a council to work together to have consultative processes across the 8 subsectors of our industry. As council, we sat together and we went through every single consultative process, but then we went and we found as council that we needed to create certain resolutions that were aligned to what was transformation within the sector, that was sustainable and that spoke to every single aspect and touch point of the sector. When we looked at ownership and control, the resolutions that came from council over the 2 years was that we would look at equity equivalent programs prior as a council before they would go to the DTIC, who we know are the custodians of it, but we felt that we needed to look at it as an aligned sector specific so that it would then meet what we needed to do. As council, we also then agreed that we would not have within our codes the modified flow through, because we felt that that was a system and a mechanism that wasn't a true reflection of transformation. We then also said the once empowered, always empowered would not find it's a voice in our codes. The one thing that we knew as we went through our consultative processes was there was always a sort of a highlighting around owner-driver schemes, and we then said we would then do a deep dive into these schemes to make sure that true transformation lay within the hands of Black people. We then sat and we understand and we addressed the issue of EAP targets in the sector. We had seen that in various sectors there were certain aspects of what was deemed as a definition of Black that were flourishing outside of the others, and we said we would then have a bonus point in our sector that would then look at EAP targets across the ownership and employment schemes, where you would get a bonus point if you met EAP targets within that. We went through empirical evidence, so it's not something that we just, I guess, looked at and we thumbsucked. There was extreme empirical evidence that came from the BE Commission, that came from the Sanlam Gauge that comes every year, and through that, we had national statistics that allowed us to then increase our targets. Our targets in the sector have increased. Instead of 26%, we are looking at 30% Black ownership, as well as 20% Black female ownership. In management and control, we increased the voting rights from 50% to 65%, again, through empirical evidence that was garnered in our process. We then increased the board voting rights from 25% to 40% in the sector. Further to that, ministers, we then looked at the BE Commission report, and we knew that we were a specialized sector, that we needed to focus on certain things around first-time board appointments with women. We moved youth to management levels, and we gave points for that, as well as we needed to broaden the base of broad-based members within this. We removed junior management in our sector, given the fact that evidence had shown that we had reached capacity of junior management in this sector. However, Black women in junior management needed to pivot, so we then created upward mobility for that. We then looked at the nuances in our sector. We needed to look at technical and specific specialized positions. So if you're looking at aviation, or you're looking at civil aviation or ATNS, we then needed to harness those skills to make sure they aligned with STEM positions, and we gave points for that. This was something that went across all boards, from cadets to Black pilots to all of those that we then looked at Black technicians in this space. Something that we find is very important in our sector is around foreign drivers. We then said to our sector, when you are looking at drivers from road freight, whether you are looking at courier companies, whether you're looking at e-hailing systems, if you surpass the target for foreign drivers within the statistics that come every year, then you will not get any points for management control. We felt that as much as people would then say this is a specialized skill, it's a skill that can be created within our realms as South Africa. So for that, we stood as a council and we said we would not have it. Except for the fact, thank you. Except for the fact for companies that are doing cross-border, please, can you mute yourselves? Hi. Can everyone online kindly mute themselves? Can you not mute everyone? You can. Can admin kindly mute everyone? Thank you. All right. Skills development, which is very critical and core to our sector. The DTIC states that mandatory training would not necessarily be counted for. As a sector, we then implore the DTIC to understand that in our sector, if mandatory training is not done, it is a safety issue. So we are asking for mandatory training to be looked at a cap of 40% so that we know that everything that happens within our sector falls within the realm of safety and regulation. We also then focused on upward mobility, creating an advancement programs, saying that we would then have advancement programs for our managers, and you would then get bonus points or points for implementing or what's the word? That word. Advancement programs, promotion, that's the word. Enterprise and supply development is core and critical to this conversation today. As a sector, we have then elected that a certain percentage of enterprise and supply development spend, 30% of the 1% of NEPAT, 30% of the 2% of NEPAT, when we speak to supply and enterprise development specifically, we would then create our own transport sector fund. The transport sector fund would hopefully look at certain gaps in the market, where we are finding there's no financing of our SMMEs, where we are finding that in most industries, we are told that Black SMMEs do not meet certain criteria. We would then create an incubation and fund them to get to certain parts. This fund in itself was 30%. We are hoping that as council, we could then agree to up it so that we can then contribute towards this fund that is being spoken about today. Social and economic development. Our focus was not just on urban areas. We then wanted to look at poor infrastructure and long distance that spanned within low-income areas, where we then looked at the rural access index as a guide to then look at how we could develop infrastructure within rural areas. And then that was part and parcel of the contribution that we would then say it is mandatory for enterprise development to then be prescribed to contribute towards rural communities as well as communities with limited services. Ladies and gentlemen, as a sector, we then brought in an element that has never been seen before, which is compliance to Section 10 of the BE Act. We feel that this is paramount and pivotal to proper transformation in our sector because of all the 8 subsectors, we do give licenses and concessions. It's a key indicator that said, if you look at Section 10 of the BE Act, it is quite broad in the fact that it's saying for licenses, concessions, and developing of procurement policies, BEE should be taken into account. We further took that one step further, and we then said 100% compliance must be granted. So for licenses, concessions, schemes and all of those, we are asking for 51% black ownership. Further to that, as a council, we then request that there's a minimum level 3 BE status. So in all 4 or 5 of the subsectors within the BE Act, we are requesting that once we get our codes gazetted, we would then look at 51% black ownership and level 3 for licenses that have been given. Our SOCs and state-owned entities that report to us would then look at a preferential procurement policy that then focuses on this. Any sale of state-owned assets would then also look at 51% and level 3, as well as PPPs and grants and incentives that are given. Our request today as council to the Minister of the DTIC is for a directive. The law states that our SOCs would then each need to find and apply for a deviation. We believe that that might take a little longer, but if possible, if we could get a directive, that would then help us get this through. Of the 8 subsectors that we are looking at gazetting, so we have foreign aviation, domestic aviation, taxi, bus, public sector, forwarding and clearing, maritime and rail. Thank you. I apologize. Maritime and rail. We will only gazette 7, given the fact that by the time we had gone far down the line with our consultative processes, we had a hand from the taxi industry that felt that they were not properly engaged. So the 2 that will not go out in this gazette would be taxi and foreign aviation. We would like to include taxi as they have asked to manufacture their own EV taxis. We would like to collaborate with the DTIC as part of the Transformation Fund to create inclusive growth, as well as integration of their own value chain, including financing and maintenance. The foreign aviation scorecard, I know Ayata's in the room, Sandile. We will then go through a further consultative process as we know that this is something that we can find each other. At no point can we not, we can find each other. Thank you very much. So we're starting with the panel discussions. May we please put up the QR code? Ladies and gentlemen, how it's going to work is that we are going to have a QR code. Please may you scan the QR code, and that's how we will then pose questions for the session as it goes forward. Our panel discussion today, we are looking at the panel topic will be unlocking transformation in the value chain of transport sector to drive inclusive growth. Our panel today, may I ask Mr. Unathi Sonti, who is the Executive Chairperson of the Maritime Business Chamber, to please join us. Ms. Masele Nhlapo, CEO of the African Rail Association, to kindly join us. President Abnas Tsebe, please may you join us from Santaco. Dr. Muiponi Maselesa, Chairperson of the Women in Logistics and Transport South Africa, please may you join us. Ms. Marie Dupree, Chairperson of the South African Association of Freight Forwarders, kindly may you join us. Thank you. Mr. Kevin Story, CEO of the Commercial Aviation Association, kindly may you join us. We need another chair. We should find something. Thank you very much. How we're going to run this session is we're going to start with the first five. Yourselves, Kev, we'll find six. We'll find you a chair, Kev. Maybe for the first round, can each one just do 1 minute introducing who you are and where you come from? May my phone?
Thank you very much, Program Director. My name is Miponi Senima Salesa. I'm coming from the Women in Transport and Logistics. It's an institute that is actually a transformation wing of CELSA, which is Chartered Institute of Logistics and Transport. I'm a chairperson looking after 9 provinces, whereby we are working with the women in the 4 subsector of transport, aviation, maritime, rail, and road. We are doing it professionally, so I think I will explain further as we are going on, but that's briefly what I can say regarding the organization that I'm serving. And I'm very happy that our president in South Africa, Elvin Harris, is in our midst. Maybe just wave so that they can see you. We focus much on training and development. Thank you very much.
Good morning. The Minister, you're making me nervous. My name is Misela Ntlapo. I am the CEO of the African Rail Industry Association. We're an industry body, but we're also an export council, supported by the Department of Trade, Industry and Competition. We represent the railway industry, the manufacturing, public and private operators. We represent SMMEs, and we're very big on skills development, particularly responding to the skills of the future. As a railway sector, we are reforming, and we cannot, absolutely not, have a reform that does not take into consideration the requirements of the law under the BBBE, and I'm quite excited to be here. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Unati Sonti, Executive Chairperson of the Maritime Business Chamber. The chamber is based in Gqeberha. That's where its headquarters are. The organization is a registered NPC in South Africa with the aim to address the imbalances within the maritime sector at large. We are aligned with all national and international maritime programs. The chamber operates from South Africa and has got representation throughout the continent. And we have MOUs and work with all other regional bodies where we do advocacy and lobbying for, in particular, the industry, but MSMEs for full participation within this non-transformed maritime sector. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairperson and Program Director, Honorable Ministers. My name, I'm Abnam Tlabanetsebe. I'm the President of the South African National Taxi Council, which is a black-owned economic powerhouse of this country, a cornerstone of the daily lives of millions of South Africans in terms of transportation. Thank you.
Good day, Maria Dupree. I'm the chairperson of the Southern African Association of Freight Forwarders. We are the people who are the glue that keeps the international logistics sector in place. We do manage all the forwarding of the cargo from all over the world and moving the cargo from South Africa to all over the world. We facilitate the customs clearing processes and make sure that everything is compliant. It's an extremely highly regulated and complex and risky industry to be in, but very exciting industry, and I'm happy to be here representing the association. Thank you.
Good day, everybody. I'm Kev Story. I am the CEO of CASA, the Commercial Aviation Association of Southern Africa. To put that into perspective, there's a couple of other associations. We look after basically everything that is not an airline. So your chartered, your air ambulances, training, the manufacturing side of aviation, and as well as the maintenance, etc., of aviation as well. So I'm very happy to be here, and I look forward to the discussions as they go forward. Thank you.
Thanks. Kev, give Kevin the mic. We'll start with you. What role do you think the transport sector stakeholders play to ensure Transformation Fund becomes a catalyst in the economic intrusion around MSMEs, development and broad-based economic empowerment, as well as a diversification of the value chain in your sector?
I think if we go into the aviation sector, it's driven from a global side, and it's a highly regulated sector. We are regulated from ICAO, so that is from 1966, where there was an agreement between all the countries in the world of how it would run. So when you drill that back down, we're also probably one of the least transformed sectors because of the way it developed. And the expertise and the small margins that are in aviation is also a challenge as far as those, that element goes. The big challenge that we have is it is a very US dollar-based industry. It is changing slightly with the advent of Embraer and some of the Chinese developments, especially in the drone fraternities. But a lot of the parts and the spares and the development and the technologies are developed in the likes of the Americas, the European Unions, etc. So South Africa, while we were really good leaders many years ago, if we use the military sector where we had the Roy Falks and those sort of things that we've built, and recently, which you may not know, we developed one of the leading gliders in South Africa, which is used internationally. Doesn't seem important, but gliding guides how the aircraft operate and the efficiencies of them. I think we haven't really built a sector here that feeds back in and effectively has two-way bilaterals that are in place. For example, with FAA in the States, there are bilaterals that we have in place with EASA and various other countries like UK, etc. So I think those need to be stimulated so that we create a sector where the design, the manufacture, etc., can be brought in rather than just the operational, the mere operation. The other element that has to be considered is the reciprocity from the foreign airlines, etc. So if we make it too difficult for foreign airlines to operate and foreign operators to come into South Africa, they will do the same back to us as we move out of the country. So I think there is a large scope, especially with the consideration of the type of funding you need to do, but it also needs to incorporate some sort of tax breaks and things like that that we can bring in place. There's a large scope there. And also the investment that you see, if you take the motor sector, Ford, etc., put vehicles and plants into South Africa. If you see the new Chinese cars, etc., that investment is not there. So if we're looking at it in the aviation sector, we need to get manufacturing agreements with the likes of Boeing, like Airbus, whatever we are utilizing here in South Africa, and try and ensure that by giving them routes for the operators, etc., that they invest back into the manufacturing sector so that we can grow the small SMMEs, etc., as we go forward. I hope that helps a bit.
Thanks, Kev. Marie, Kevin made mention of taxes and SAR as well. Literally one of the issues that we find ourselves, especially in freight forwarding, where most of the ones that want to enter into the space speak about deferment accounts. In your experience in the freight forwarding industry, how do you think this could assist as well as integrate into the rest of the value chain along this fund? 3 minutes, please.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, I think the deferment, the industry, you need to understand industry, and Gino and I had some short discussion about his 50 years experience in the industry
60.
versus my 46 years. You need to have lived and worked in the industry, and I think I've been very fortunate that I've been on the operational side, I've been on the business development side, to understand the complexities around the industry. It's not just a deferment. It's okay if you have a deferment, and I'm speaking from experience, and it's something that we need to consider, and I'm very excited to hear that the private sector will be involved in creating incubators to guide any entrant into the clearing and forwarding industry, into the risks, and it can be managed. And I can cite some examples. A client will sign an agreement with the shipping line to bring in cargo. So they've got the contract with the shipping line. You as a clearing agent, besides the deferment, which is another issue, have to pay the shipping lines cash up front. You pay them before you can release the cargo. For whatever reason, there are delays, and you incur demurrage and detention charges. This is a real-life example. And particularly over December, where a client cannot manage their own supply chain. Those containers sit and they incur demurrage and detention charges. So eventually you sit with a bill of 10 million rand. It's very easy that it lands up with that. Your client then says, well, I'm not going to pay you. You have to carry that 10 million rand. For an SME, it's not possible. Same side, you can have a deferment. You pay the duty and the VAT. And speaking from experience, you've got a contract with a client, and the contract says you will pay me 30 days from month-end statement or 7 days from statement. And the client just doesn't pay you. I can tell you lots of horror stories that happened during COVID. If you're an international player or a big player in the market and you've got deep pockets, you can actually carry your business while fighting with the client trying to get your funds. As a small SME, you'll go under. And I'm sure that if we actually engage with some of the SMEs who's tried it and had to deal with clients who just don't honor their payment agreements. And we can cite state-owned entities, clear example. And you can cite Denel. It'll be interesting to see how many of these SMEs who did business with Denel, because of the poor payment patterns, actually how they struggled and how they managed to survive during that process. So it's far more complex. And part of the incubation program should be, number one, you cannot just get business nowadays. There's an RFQ. How do you deal with that RFQ? You need to look at the legal liabilities. And trust me, clients, they write all kinds of liabilities into those contracts that if you do not understand it, you can make yourself wide open to risks that you don't understand. It's not as straightforward. As I say, and it's just, there's so many complexities. It's very excited that we can actually start a program where we can teach them all these things and hold their hands until such time that they fully understand it and then be successful in the future. The deferment, if there's a fund and they can get funding from this transformation fund, it's fine, but we need to understand the risks associated with it. You cannot force your clients if they, with their internal processes, cause additional cost or cause delays in payments. And it's how do we help them to transition when those events happen?
Thank you. Transformation in your sector, most would say, is already a done deal. I think we've had many conversations around this. But how do you foresee a fund of this nature assisting you in unlocking the value chain that speaks to you and your industry?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I think to fellow South Africans that it's been for decades. We operated without access to the kind of structures financial support. So this has limited our ability, of course, but I don't want to get there. I want to obviously talk of the future and going forward, that the launch of this transformation fund gives us a new opportunity to change that reality. And for the first time, the township and rural economies where the taxi industry lives and breathes are being placed at the center of South Africa's development agenda. And this is not just overdue, it is essential. Madam Chair, our remarks on the fund and its impact on the taxi industry. Remember that Santaco already we are with the meter taxi, we've got the cross-border and also the scholar transport. We are hard at work. We've started engaging the scholar transport and we've got the e-hailing as well. So lack of access to affordable finance to fleet renewal or business expansion is of importance to us. Inadequate infrastructure at ranks and routes. As much as we are going the EV ways, the gas, we need infrastructure. So we're not going to just get into EVs if the infrastructure, so we don't want to react, we need to be proactive in that regard. And limited support for taxi-linked SMMEs like our mechanics, hawkers, car washers, tires, and fuel services. We normally call it a taxi rank economy. And needed to formalize in order to unlock greater economic value and partnership, Madam Chair. This fund, if implemented effectively, for us, it can provide loans, equity, investment to taxi operators and associations to grow and diversify. We know that the challenge that we are facing for formalization is that associations work as individuals, members in associations. So we are trying to bring everybody and start to have the so-called cooperatives or corporatize the taxi industry. So we've got platforms where we've started, and I think, Madam Chair, funding, because it's a challenge, you'll see we are starting one with DBSA and World Bank, which is going to be a benchmark for us going forward to say this is how we want the taxi so that we can unlock other value-add services and enable infrastructure upgrades at ranks, depots, and intermodal hubs. Because the circular economy that we've been talking about all along is that we were unable to tap into other value-add services because of our division, but we are working in terms of unifying the taxi industry to become one, so we are not seen working in silos. And I'm happy that I see my Deputy President from NTA sitting right here as I'm talking to the panel here. And we want the support, the digitization and professionalization of our operations from fare collections to fleet management, and also formalize employment of our drivers so that we can be in control, and to strengthen the local businesses that form part of the taxi economy. The inclusion of non-financial support, which is training, mentorship, business compliance, and accreditation, will be critical, Madam Chair, and especially for our operators who have been excluded for the formal system, not due to lack of will, but due to lack of access. And Madam and colleagues, transformation cannot be kicked off on a scorecard. It must be live and seen and experienced on the ground. This fund gives us the tools and it gives us hope, but it is our responsibility to make them work. Thank you.
Thank you. Ntate Sonti. 3 weeks ago, we kicked off the Ocean Economy G20, discussing how the ocean economy can become the next gold mine. Maritime is quite a capital-intensive industry, but given this fund and what it can do to unlock the value chain, and how we can then look at the coupling of BE with industry policy and its imperatives, how do you see this?
No, thank you, Madam Moderator. Indeed, we welcome the fund. And maritime as a backbone of international economies, including ours, is one of those that is critical, that a fund like this would be used to develop MSMEs, like industrialists, and it will come in very handy because of the high, capital intensiveness of the nature of the business itself. As the first speaker alluded to the fact that while There are local activities that are very key, but majority is internationally driven, and of which then something like this would really come in very handy. But not only in terms of funding, I think in terms of, opening up avenues for historically disadvantaged to be able to participate meaningfully within the economy, programs, intentional programs such as acceleration instead of just incubation, but acceleration programs that then will see, SMMEs now not only becoming, the last end or tail end participant within the value chain, but see some of them being now terminal operators within the port system. So this fund would then be able to unlock things like that. And we note that if also it can be aligned in terms of, the government policies, your triple BE policies that the government would commit to. We see the fund as well as very critical and important with what the Transport Council is proposing around a transport fund. We hope that the fund would also have a maritime specific fund, because currently in terms of the DFIs, it is not easy to access, funding for maritime related businesses. And there's quite a number of opportunities that we believe, especially small businesses, could be able to participate through a fund like this, if then it can be implemented and monitored correctly. If we look within the fishing sector, in terms of the small scale fishers, within the rural communities, if then we look in terms of components, manufacturing, the fund, if then blended in a way that it can have that access and support for MSMEs, indeed there would be greater participation for small businesses. But what would be key is the policies that would be aligned and followed by government. While your interest or your proposal would be, BE level 3, we would even want to push it further to BE level 2, for some concessions, because there has been those that have been enjoying, and because there has not been any penalties or ways of putting or making them to be accountable when they remain, with their high level BEs within the space. So pushing that then will allow proper ownership and, structured support for SMMEs. Thank you.
Thank you. Can we try to stick to the 3 minutes? I can set another round of questions given the time. Mentlap.
Inkinga zethu ziningi.
Inkinga. There's a lot of inkingas in this. Please share your insights, especially around the rail reform and what's going on there, and how you believe that such a fund and the BE codes could then assist. Given the fact that, again, similar to maritime, rail is also quite a capital-intensive industry, and how you would see the idea of maybe partnering, bringing in other players, but also then working cordially around the sector. What are your thoughts on that?
The question is always around why. Why do we need a rail reform? And if we say we need rail reform because Transnet is not efficient, then if Transnet is efficient next year, would we still have rail reform? Rail reform should be about complementing and supplementing what Transnet does, complementing and supplementing what PRASA does. At the heart and the DNA of the railway industry is Transnet and PRASA. Railway businesses have always had their business model centered around those two institutions. So when you bring rail reform that does not understand the DNA itself, what makes us tick as a sector, we will have the money but will not be able to implement. If Transnet is the backbone of me as a black person in this country, giving me an opportunity to participate in the railway sector is being reformed. And the lines that Transnet, the lines that at least are in the RFI makes about 55% of what Transnet does. So when you take away that 55%, we need to make sure that that 55%, we do not build other monopolies, but we make sure that those assets, whether it's the infrastructure, the rail rolling stock, are spoken for, continue to serve the mandate that they were meant to serve. We have a partner minister in the DTIC, and we are quite excited that we are being consulted on this fund. The BE needs to find itself in the rooms where rules are being made. For an example, the PSP unit, the National Logistic Crisis Committee, and many other areas where rules are being made. The people that look like me, the people that are supposed to benefit from this fund, are not represented. And there is absolutely no way that those that sit there will think about me when they're drafting the rules. They will take their needs into consideration. So we need to change the face of the people that are making the rules. Minister Chrissy, when my government, during the 2024 elections, were crisscrossing the country and saying to our people that vote for us, we will create jobs. We went through quite a painful process where we wanted to be consulted in a similar fashion. We were told that it's an information gathering session for the interim economic regulator. Yes, the DTI talking about us with economics of the country, but we were not part of those rules around the economic regulator. So, and we would like to have that included. When we're making rules, include us so that when we respond to the laws that are meant to benefit us, we are part of making those rules to ensure that we can implement the policies that the government of the day are putting in place. So use us, we are partners. They'll tell us that you are corrupt. It's not true. We need to make sure together that we cannot fail. We cannot fail the kids. As black people, we can't fail. Whatever they say about this fund, we have to make sure that it works. And it responds and it responds not today, to the future. Minister, most people except me, most people in the railway sector were trained by Transnet at Transnet School of Rail. Okay. Transnet now has to survive, right? So when you understand the DNA of the role of Transnet that it has played in the industry, now we need to say that that institution that is responsible for skills development, specifically for our sector, and ensuring that we build future railway engineers, we propose that perhaps a Transnet is supported maybe with the idea of the Department of Higher Education Training consider Transnet School of Rail as a school of higher education where government will play a significant role. We have the resources. We don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Thank you.
Can I say one last thing? We believe in you. We believe in ourselves. We can't fail.
Maybe Bon. Logistics. We have seen with certain failures around the rail system that a lot of the trucks, we've seen a lot of infrastructure around road freight coming and going. What are the needs within the road freight industry? Whether it's bringing in SMMEs, whether it's bringing in women, but similarly, road freight is something that we use in shipping, what's called cargo is king. How do we then bring a fund of this nature to bring the cargo with the transportation to then achieve what needs to happen within the space?
Thank you very much, Program Director. Women in logistics and transport are actually focusing on, number one, women themselves. How empowered are they, especially when it's coming to an area of transport and logistics? Remember that this is an area that is actually not accessible for women. I don't want to say male-dominated, whatever, we don't use that anymore, because when you want to penetrate, you have to be really humble and understand what is going on. Now, road, we can see that a road is the most attractive part of economy. More especially if you can look at the major greater roads like the N1 North, whereby there is trucks, there is courier services, there is mini taxis and normal transport. But we are asking ourselves, the participation of women in this economic area, is it really visible or is it there? And now, women in logistics and transport are actually being empowered by being under the Charter of Logistics and Transport, whereby our unit that is doing research and development, we start to look at the problem itself. What is the problem? Why are women not participating? And majority of them, they would like to participate in taxes, but then it's very difficult. Why is it difficult? They rather come at the backside, actually, and then allow their certificate, obtain certificate, but then the certificates are used by men. And then why? Then from our side, our research and development unit is actually coming up with the ways of saying participation and engagement of women. Actually, they have to build confidence because, number one, of the cultural issues, number two, of the fear, number three, of safety, of what is happening around the rail, around the road, even in maritime and aviation. Now, responding specifically to your question in terms of logistics, it's quite interesting that if you look at companies, huge companies like Imperial, Value Logistics, and so on, I can name them. But in actual fact, if you check on type of ownership that is there, it's still even people who are in positions of power that are there, and accessibility is still very difficult. Now we are hoping that this good transformation fund is gonna give women a power to say, but we are not coming empty-handed, we are coming with something that we are coming to make a difference. Now, you have to look at the transformation fund in both sides to say that how is the implementation going to happen? What is the strategy there? Is the money still going to go to the people who are having money and buying this new money that is coming in? Or are we going to be fair and let everybody participate equally? Transport and logistics, especially logistics, it's an area whereby you have to understand the value chain. Now, if you don't understand the value chain, it becomes very difficult for the women to access because, number one, lack of confidence, and number two, the environment on its own is not compelling women to be able to participate. Now we are saying to the minister that, yes, in rail, rolling stock is out. When you don't have what is yours, then you resort now to methods of mentoring and then sourcing out the people that are able to assist you in that regard. We have approached all the different stakeholders, AXA, ATNS, but with a welcoming hand that we received, we would like to also participate in issues like bunkering, whereby there is a lot of economic growth that is coming there. Now, Program Director, your logistics will say, do women understand? Hence, our research and development unit have now resorted into training and development of the women in logistics. And we are promising, Minister, that we are getting there. We have actually touched on all the 4 subsectors of transport. Aviation, we are in negotiations with AXA, and we recently met with the CEO of Lanseria, whereby we are very much ambitious to participate in fuel supply and also in ownership, because the BEE codes, at first when I see Transformation Fund, I was actually a bit concerned to say, is this a reversal now of the triple BEE? But later on, after your Freedom Park a meeting, I realized that, okay, fine, reading the document and then looking at the BEE, then you find that this is a plan to actually implement, to resource the triple BE Act. Thank you, just last one. The rural ocean economy, it's something that we are tapping on because it's really very important. If you travel to those areas, you can see that there is a serious neglect, but not a neglect, only because there are no funds that can be used for rural ocean economy.
Thank you.
Mining is another part
Thank
that
you.
we are going to talk about.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Given time, we're going to open it up to the floor. So let the floor ask a few questions. I'm going to take the first round. 5 questions, the first round. One over there. Yes, ma'am, there. Yes. Can we start with the lady over there? Please, can you then let us know who you are and who you're posing the question to? And again, please can just be less than a minute.
Okay. My name is Thelma Pito. I'm from a company called PMOC Marine Services. I'm into ship repairs and importing of marine fenders. What I want to ask is the support that the fund will give to women, specifically in ship repairs. Yeah, that's my question. I think it's 1 minute.
All right. There was a gentleman over here.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Can we get another mic, please?
Okay. Yeah. Okay. My name is Paul Madua from the taxi industry in the West Rand. I'm happy my chairman is here, National Chairman, Mr. Tsebe. My question is directed to Mr. Kevin Story. I heard you said the aviation industry is very regulated. I want to know what you guys doing to brought it down to include the normal persons like our children who are studying, and also is there any program which the Transformation Fund can help? Thank you.
Can I start with you? There are two questions. There are two questions. Can we start here?
Thanks, Chairperson. My name is Kwezi Mabasa, and I'm a researcher and academic who writes on transformation issues. One comment and one question. The comment is, I think it's clear that the economic case for the Transformation Fund goes beyond the monetary value of the fund. It creates jobs, it's linked to industrializations, and builds localized value chains. So we need to shift the debate from just the obsession with the billions to the socio-economic impact. The question goes to my brother there from Santaco. I think he made some interesting comments about the link between BEE and the informal economy, which is often neglected. So what other ideas can you give us around improving the link between our BEE strategy and supporting the informal economy? Thank you.
Thank you. Can we give a mic to Gino, please? Yes, please, Gino. Yes. Please, can I get a mic to Gino, please?
Thank you. Thank you, Chairperson, my Chairperson.
Gino, can you just wait, Mr. Mkwanazi? Gino, please, we'll get one now.
Yeah. Thank you, my Chairperson, and our honorable ministers here. Mine is more of, a comment that we've got, to recognize, even as we have come up with this, transformation fund, which actually cut across all black, enterprises. The key to the success of this, which would be a departure from, the other initiatives that we've seen, is the capital to black business. And secondly, access to markets. That is key. Even when you look into the ESDs that, are done, by the corporate private sector, you find that the very critical missing link is actually the funding. In these ESDs, the companies have got no problem with perpetually training you, saying that you are being skilled, perpetually skilled, as if that skilling on its own is going to translate into the success of the business. So funding is very key. We should actually, dive, deep into what is actually happening within these ESDs. Is it just, a box ticking that, I have done this and therefore I qualify for the 1%, that is skills development levy, or it is actually doing what it is supposed to do. That is actually funding. Because without this funding, as a black professional, you can never even be able to take charge, of the opportunities that are out there. And, the scorecard itself.
Time, Mr. Mkwanazi.
Yeah, I'm just concluding. The scorecard itself, does not discriminate. Once we are at a certain level, it does not go deep as to who is at this level one, you find that the big companies keep on benefiting simply because of manipulating, the scorecard. So this fund has got to do things differently. If you go to the township where these small to medium businesses are supposed to be happening, you'll be forgiven to think that today is a weekend. People are doing nothing because that is where the small business are actually, happening. Thank you.
Can we get a mic for Gino, and then can we read the questions that are online? Gino, 1 minute.
Good morning,
Please introduce
distinguished
yourself.
guests and honorable minister. We thank God for the appointments a year ago for the two ministers that we have and the deputies. And also to thank you for our chair that has led us on this Charter Council, this Triple B Charter Council. As our chairperson said, Becca, it's overdue since 2009, Roland, the alignment to 2020-25.
Gino, 1
So there's
minute,
hard
please.
work to be done. I would like to thank Maria, my colleague, for 46 years in the industry, and Papa G's 50 years in the industry. Thank you for recognizing. Yes, we have reached out to Sahaf. Yes, and your DHLs and your global, it's monopolized. The cargo from Durban, David Wells, between Durban and Gauteng and Tshwane is dominated by multinationals, chairperson. We've debated that, so let us educate, Papa G, educate the room. It is the largest sector, Patrick Umveli. It's the maritime and forwarding and clearing, as Maria indicated, highly regulated. Barrier to entry. 2, deferment, SARS deferment. Edward Kisvita, Papa G is coming to your door. Thank you.
Gino.
No more games. No more games with your leadership, Chair. Parks, comrade, let's implement. Let's take it to our coastal communities that lady spoke of. I come from Port St. John's. My people in Port St. John's are dying as I'm speaking here. Ngiyabonga.
Thank you, Gino.
Thank you, thank you.
Mr. Sonti, there's a question for you. Mr.
Okay,
Sonti,
thank you, Chair.
spoke. Oh, is there one more person? Yes, sorry, yes. Last one,
Okay,
one.
thank you. So I don't know if I'm audible. I don't know how I'm going to come after that comments. Okay, just few comments from my side. My name is Renata Semenya. I'm in heavy duty transportation. I've got only few things, 2 or 3 that I need to just put forward. In terms of, not to the panel, but to my colleagues, the issue around sustainability, in terms of litter, in terms of spillages and other things, my plea is that we need to put more effort as SMMEs and other partners to ensure that we preserve the environment. It is concerning that we contribute negatively and there's no accountability. That is just my plea. Okay, now to my question. In terms of Transformation Fund, I think what I would like to raise is the fact that it is a great idea that we do get those funds as needed to build our businesses. But the biggest challenge that we are being faced with on a day-to-day basis is the fact that, 1, the road infrastructure are killing our assets. It is not sustainable that I get the funding, which I have in my case from CIFA, but I find myself having to repair and maintain my truck consistently, not because it's aged, it's because of the road infrastructure. That needs to be taken into cognizance, that without putting proper infrastructure, we're going backwards. On the telecoms, I wish the telecoms was here. It's critical that the telecoms departments, they support, or at least they have infrastructure, because we are not able to perform our duties in terms of tracing the loads. And as a result, we become inefficient and unreliable, not because of my own doing, because I'm not able to provide feedback to my customer on time because we have network issues in other areas. That needs to be taken into consideration. I think also, lastly, from my side, issue around crime. My insurance claims are very high, mainly because of crime, meaning I'm not able to consistently deliver my loads. Because as you stop anywhere, they damage they damage your assets, they attack the drivers and so forth. So if we don't look at all these issues as a system, I'm going to receive funds, but it means I won't be in the business for the next 5 years. I will be out. So if we can, as the debates are going forward, let's look at all those factors that are affecting SMMEs in particular. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Could you just pose your questions in writing and we will respond to them? But in closing, I'm going to do half a minute to answer the questions that were there. I'm taking one for you, Mr. Sonti, where it says, you spoke of component manufacturing in the maritime space. Does South Africa build ships? If not, how can we get into this goal? So half a minute from everyone, and then I would like to pose to the DMs if they have anything to say. Kev, you had a question from Santako. Yes.
I'm going to answer your question, Paul, in a slightly roundabout way. So first of all, with this fund, I think we haven't really got into the positives of the possibilities of this fund. And if the fund is operated correctly and it's built correctly, the fund has to get funding. And the methodology that is going to be used is using the sectorial codes to bring in the funding. So on that basis, we need to find a good way to do that. So the couple of strengths on here, it's going to be a funding pool that you're going to use that sectorial funding. You're going to use that application to create the programs for the black-owned MROs, pilot training, etc., etc. You're going to ring fence some of the grants, etc. there, especially sorting out some of the US dollar barriers to entry, hedging against the fuel increases, all those sorts of things. And you're going to have the simulator trainings, etc., that are basically held in the United States. You would like to bring those back through to South Africa. So that would give you some of the programs that the kids or the people that are coming into the programs that would be funded by the fund could make use of. You would also need to leverage off the use of the routes. So for example, let's say Emirates wants to bring a route into South Africa. They want to fly it because we do not have the capacity here with the decline in South African Airways and some of the others. They would need to put investment into South Africa via this fund to build training, to bring, to take people to their MROs. Take, for example, Ethiopian Airlines. Okay, take it, Ethiopia Airlines. They've got a 66% market share, but they have an MRO there. So if we can take this fund and we can build those here or take our people through to those areas for that training, then it will work. And then as far as the regulations, I have the Director of Civil Aviation here. There is ongoing work on a daily basis to streamline the regulations, modify it so that the industry can work more efficiently, etc. It's an ongoing process, and I think those are there. Thank you.
Mary? Sorry, Kev. 30 seconds, please.
Okay, thank you very much. I think one thing, and we've got the minister here, can we please look at the skills matrix? Sorry, I know it's not relevant, but if I think about our industry has changed so rapidly. We need different skills in the industry, we need more graduates. And if you look at the current skills matrix, it doesn't address the accommodating work experience for graduates after they've graduated to actually come into the businesses and get that work experience because of what's in the skills matrix. Skills matrix says only if it's an internship as part of a qualification. Please ask that this revisit the skills matrix. And that will also contribute to relieving some of the unemployed graduates for South Africa.
Thank you, Mary.
There's some wonderful skills out there, but they graduated, but they're not being absorbed in business, And again, BE codes, unfortunately, companies, they tick the blocks.
Okay.
Please, thank you very much.
Dr. Tsebe.
Thank you very much. In terms of the informal and supporting the informal economy, I want to stress and commit that, of course, Santaco, from a national point of view, we are going to mobilize our provinces, regions, and associations to respond with well-designed, impactful proposal. How are we going to create this working together, especially what you call the rank economy or the township economy? I think that it needs more of collaboration with government, partnering with government, private sector to build a tax industry that is not only transformed, but we must make sure that we are thriving in making sure that we accommodate everyone in the space. Thank you.
Dr. Swante.
Thank you. Yes, South Africa does have a vibrant shipbuilding and ship repair, industry. We do build some ships. There are some shipyards that we have in Durban and in Cape Town. So there is, but in terms of the fund, one critical thing is we can have the fund, but if there are no policies that enforces participation, that makes business to give business to MSMEs, the fund will be useless. We have fought for port licenses, where within the port licenses have been incentivized. There's been, reductions in terms of, and how you can pay your license. But one can still have a license, but is still unable to get work. So all of these, if there are no policies that support them, they will be fruitless.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Nhlapho.
The revitalization of South African rail sector through a well-planned and effectively implemented reforms is undeniably critical for the nation's overall economic development and its ability to compete in regional and global markets. And as South Africa embarks on this transformative journey, it is absolutely essential to strategically integrate policies that are specifically designed to safeguard and actively promote the rail manufacturing industry into a broader rail reform agenda from its very inception. Minister, it's a lie that we can compete. Minister, it's a lie that people that look like me are not experts. By drawing valuable lessons from the global experiences in other countries that have undergone rail reform, South Africa can proactively mitigate potential unintended negative consequences and instead create a supportive and enabling environment for its domestic manufacturers to thrive.
Thank you.
Minister, with our reforms, we need to structure them in such a way that they respond to the African continental free trade area, and that recognizing the rail reform is an ongoing journey. South Africa must remain adaptable, committed to continuous improvement in its rail sector. What we train for, those intents, there must be a market on the other side. There must be a manufacturing sector on the other side, and that rail manufacture must be funded by this fund and must respond to the BBBEE code.
Thank you, Ma. Thank you. 30 seconds.
Thank you very much. We are saying to the minister that as women in logistics and transport, we really cry for monitoring and evaluation of the fund. Our government has got beautiful ideas. They come up with beautiful decisions, but when it comes to execution of the strategy, then we fail seriously so, in the sense that the monitoring and evaluation that we really wish it could be there is not there. Now we are talking about sustainability, which we are saying that if out of the fund is able to repay itself and then makes good returns because people are motivated by receiving the fund, then we are actually going to experience a serious economic growth out of this fund.
Thank you so much, Ma. Please stay seated. May I ask DM Kekan?
Honorable Ministers and my colleague, GM, Kotlimpi and MEC, and the sector at large. Maybe just appreciating the presenters and comments that have been made. The future has just spoken here, a young woman, and I think we really need to just comment on what you said. You're calling for synergy amongst sectors. Today, the transport sector is meeting, and whatever we're talking about, there are other unintended consequences that comes along, part of it being safety and security, while government is doing this. So it means as we continue to navigate the implementation and consultation of this transformation fund, the security cluster must also come closer, so that in as much as we want to rebuild our economy and do all these things, there must be synergy amongst various clusters. So it's one of the takeaways that we getting from you, including the issue of communications. I think Minister of Communications this week, or the IMC, the Interministerial Committee that the President put together, this week there was what we call Digital Transformation Roadmap, and part of it was the cost of communication, which is data must fall, and then the other one is around network coverage. So we are hard at work to do that. So these are the things that you're saying. Let's as we deal with some of the things of transport, other things that can complement or become enablers for you to operate are also very necessary. So we're taking that very seriously. Thank you.
MEC. Thank you very much. I thought I'm here to listen, because part of leadership is to listen. I think we really appreciate this consultation, and I think as a province and with some of the stakeholders that are here, it should not end to this establishment of the fund. I think as different stakeholders, we need to be part of monitoring and evaluating the implementation. The other important thing is integration, and I think Deputy Minister has spoken to. Integration of different associations into one to assist government and different stakeholders as you are, to be able to measure progress on some of the things we are doing. Because I think where we are now, we struggle with integration, we work in silos, either as government departments, also as yourselves, as different stakeholders that are assisting us to grow our economy. So there's that important fact that we must ensure we do. But then what is most important to me is consultation on ensuring evaluation of whether the fund is working for us. There's a lot that we've established, and we hardly monitor and evaluate whether it's working for ordinary South Africans. Thank you very much.
DG.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Program Director, and I will just say all protocol observed. Again, like the MEC, I did not think that I will be also given an opportunity to speak, but thank you for that. My name is Tulisi Lemanzini, the Director General from the Department of Small Business Development. My 2 cents, Minister, on this is just to remind the House about our Department of Small Business Development, what we are responsible for, which is your issues, which very much linked to what we are doing here today, the issues of access to finance, enterprise and supplier development, policy regulation, and also the ecosystem alignment. And also on the issue of the MSMEs and cooperatives access to funding. As the department, we have developed what you call your MSMEs and cooperative funding policy, which provides a holistic, coordinated, pragmatic framework for strengthening the provision of development of finance for SMMEs and cooperatives. So this funding policy is further proposing the establishment of a centralized fund structure in partnership with other role players here using the best practices funding model. One of the funding structures, therefore, that is established by department in collaboration with the DTIC, which is the Transformation Fund of Funds. Coming home to what we are here today for the funding support for the transport and logistic MSMEs to date, what we have done is that the department, through our agency, which is CETFA, we continually provide skills development, business development, and other support services. And I'm proud to say that over the past 5 years, Minister, 4,221 MSMEs were supported. And in addition to this training support intervention, we have partnered with the retail motor industry to pursue the enterprise and supplier development program. And again, the program assists the enterprise in attaining the retail motor industry accreditation. Above the non-financial support, the CETFA loan book comprises of 318 million, which was dispersed of the 63 MSMEs across all provinces. And in closing, the Transformation Fund today here, therefore, is more than just a financial mechanism. It's a strategic instrument to address exclusion and repositioning Black entrepreneurs, not only as service providers, but also as key actors in the freight, warehousing, fleet management, and logistic technology. So I will say, let us seize this opportunity to co-design and implement the framework that ensures transformation is not just symbolic, but measurable, meaningful, and sustainable. So the Department of Small Business Development, Minister, we are reaffirming our commitment in working closely with the department to ensure that everything that is said here is realized through the mandate of our department and what we can do to ensure that. Thank you.
Thank you. May I, Toivo? Thank you very much. Thank you very much to the panel. May I release you? Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce Minister Barbara Creasy, who will then do our keynote address. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and allow me to acknowledge Minister Tau, our deputy ministers, MEC, DGs, and all of the esteemed guests who are here today. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm not going to give a keynote address. I just think I'll make some concluding remarks. First of all, let me say to Minister Tau that the Department of Transport is enormously grateful to you for having given us an opportunity to participate in this consultation today and to understand the opportunities that exist in the broader ecosystem for us to consolidate support that exists in the environment so that we are able to get better broad-based Black economic outcomes. I think that if we look at the transport sector, what we can all agree is that when we are dealing with matters of building of transport infrastructure, our broad-based Black economic empowerment statistics and the involvement of smaller businesses in the value chain is good. But where there is failure and I think, outcomes that we have nothing to be proud of is when it comes to the question of the freight and logistics and transport operations side. In fact, I think that we can all agree that the taxi industry is the only 100% black-owned operating industry in the transport sector that transports the majority of commuters in our country. And so I would want to say, colleagues, that if you are going to work on transformation, you've got to start where the bulk of the ownership and the operations are. And I would want to suggest, Minister Parks, that we've got to look at how we can use your important innovation to help us in our journey of formalizing the taxi industry. One of the deep concerns that I have shared with the industry is that individual operators cannot make a decent living because the bulk of what they are paying is for repayments on the taxi recapitalization process. In fact, I would actually say that that process is de facto bankrupting the industry because the cost of repayment exceeds the cost of the revenue that can be achieved in a month for that industry. So the first priority and the first call on this fund is that it must support our department in de-risking finance for taxi recapitalization so that drivers and operators are able to have safe and affordable vehicles from which they can make a good livelihood. Secondly, from our side as the department, we've got a lot of work to do together with the provinces on standardizing the regulating and permitting environment. Because you can't have a 5-year loan but a 2-year operating permit, because then you're going to be a risk. If you are operating across provincial boundaries, you can't be operating in multiple regulatory environments. I mean, I don't think this is even red tape. I don't know what kind of tape it is. But yeah, I think it's chains, it's not tape. So this is work that we've agreed with the industry, and we want to agree with the provinces that we have to do and we have to resolve. So that, for me, when we are looking at the significant work that the Transport Broad-Based Economic Empowerment Charter Council is doing, I would want to say that this is the first area where I would invite the council to align with the long-term vision of the ministry. Secondly, if we are talking about empowerment, we have to start with where are the opportunities for growth in the transport sector. Because what I would want us to be doing is I would want us to be starting those new growth opportunities on what we could all regard as the correct footing. So you've heard today, and I want to emphasize, there's a massive growth in rail reform. We published the Transnet Network Statement. This is an opportunity for third-party operators on the Transnet network. Currently, we have a request for information out on the possibility of investing in the actual rail network. And that could be in terms of a concession or a build, operate, and transfer, PPP. There are different models available there. The reason we've put out a request for information is to understand market appetite and to guide the future rules of the private sector participation unit. It's going to be very important that prospective rail operators and entrepreneurs need to be giving feedback in that process. We've extended the deadline to receive feedback to the 31st of May because there's too much interest. So this is the next area where we are going to have to align financing and empowerment. The third area is on the ports network. And I think that if you look at the RFI that Transnet has put out, we're not just talking about the 5 key rail corridors, we're also talking about the related ports. At the moment, 65% of our non-mineral freight goes out through the port of Durban. The ports of Gqeberha and Ngqura and Cape Town could be much better utilized than they are currently. And we would be wanting to put out in due course RFPs for port and terminal operators. This is also an opportunity for new investors, new partnerships, new JVs. I do urge you to look at the RFI process, and I do urge the Transport BEE Charter Council to help us to align on where opportunities are and how we would want to move forward in terms of accessing the fund. Air freight. We have a target for this term of government to increase the air freight from the current 300 million tons per annum to, 300,000 tons per annum to 1 million tons per annum. This is another area and could be a very important area in terms of transformation of the airline, the aviation sector, which is currently, as many people have said, very, very under transformed. So I think we're at a very exciting place with regard to the transport sector. We are pacing the reform so that we get information first and make decisions later. It is so that we can make sure that the future RFPs consider all aspects of government's policy environment, whether those aspects are broad-based Black economic empowerment, local production. Myself and Minister Tau have had discussions on the question of how rail build can support the steel industry. I think these are, of course, very important considerations that we are extremely mindful of. And if you read the RFI, all of these issues are contained there. What we need is your ideas and your feedback so that the future RFPs are aligned. There were lots of questions, Minister Tau, about how will people access the fund and how can it be used? What can it be used for? I think that myself and the acting DG of Transport were whispering to each other that a masterclass on this seems to be urgently required. And it would be very helpful if we could do it before we put out the RFPs, because I think that there would be many people here who would be interested in being JV partners. What they would want to know is what will they be able to bring to the negotiating table going forward. So that masterclass, I think, is very much overdue. Like others here, I came to learn and to listen It's been extremely educational. We would like to receive the questions, not necessarily because we would be giving you answers, but because I think the questions are very instructive in terms of how government needs to be shaping its policy going forward. But, you know, I'm very excited about the possibilities. We really are at the point when we are going to be opening up all kinds of avenues that have never been available in the past. And it's important that all of you become prepared so that you can take advantage of them. Thank you very much for inviting me.
I was warming up. Unfortunately, like everything, this also has to come to an end, but it was very exciting. I think you would agree with me. Honorable Ministers Tau and Chrissy, the Honorable Deputy Ministers, Honorable MEC, DG and the DTI and small business colleagues, partners in the sector, honored guests, ladies and gentlemen. Very quickly, vote of thanks. And then we should go and tussle and deal with the targets. This was a consultation process. And as the Honorable Minister has said, it ends on the 28th. We hope that you are going to participate, make inputs, so that you shape up the form of the fund going forward. But we really would also like to thank the speakers, the two ministers. They gave us clear direction in terms of what we need to do. Chairperson, you're always on song. Thank you very much for the passion. Thank you for also assisting in co-directing, but also in the broader responsibilities of being the chair. We hope those ambitious targets will be met. We are there to support. We just don't know if everyone else understood your increase. I've seen in almost all the areas you have increased from the standard target of DTI. Good luck. We also would like to thank the panel for your insights, but most particularly the passion that you have. I think the other important people that we'd like to thank are the organizers and their teams, the support teams. They really made this one a very successful session. I hope they fed you. But also, I think it was short, sweet, and very focused. Thank you very much. Enjoy your day going forward. Thank you.